My beloved child, something in the unseen has been stirring around you, and tonight heaven refuses to stay silent any longer. The message coming through is urgent, prophetic, and unlike anything you have ever heard. Archangel Michael has stepped forward with a sword of divine fire, and his voice echoes with a warning that cannot wait. Your home is being targeted, and the name connected to this threat is being exposed before 10:10 p.m. tonight. Listen closely, because every second from this moment carries weight. There are moments in life when the veil thins, when danger tries to whisper its way into your world, and when God sends a warrior to stop it before it reaches your door. This is one of those rare, sacred, electrifying moments. You have felt it, haven't you? A strange tension in the air. A shift in the atmosphere of your home. Something that made you double-check the doors, glance at the windows, sense an unusual heaviness you couldn't explain. That was not your imagination. It was your spirit detecting the footsteps of someone who is not meant to cross your threshold. Heaven is revealing that a plan had been forming in the mind of a person whose intentions for you are not pure, someone who has carried jealousy, resentment, or obsession in their heart. And Archangel Michael is now exposing the truth before this individual takes a single step closer. Child of light, the warning is clear. Someone is planning to rob your house. Someone has been watching, guessing, assuming you are unprotected. But they are wrong. They did not expect heaven to intervene on your behalf. They did not expect their name to rise into divine sight. Archangel Michael is revealing that the person connected to this threat carries a name that has been echoing in your memory lately, a name that suddenly resurfaced without reason, a name you thought you were done with. Someone who once stood close enough to know your habits, your timing, your silence. This is not a random stranger. This is someone whose energy brushed against your life before. Someone who carries unfinished intentions toward you. And God is exposing them tonight. Feel how your heart responds in this moment. The slight tremble, the surge of alertness, the holy fire rising in your chest. This is not fear. This is awareness. This is spiritual awakening. Archangel Michael is activating your discernment so you will not be caught off guard by the schemes of the one who thought you remained blind. Heaven says, do not be shaken. Be aware. I am with you. I reveal so you may be protected. There is a divine reason this message reached you right now, not an hour later, not a day earlier. Timing in the spiritual realm is precise. When danger aligns, protection aligns stronger. When darkness plots, heaven moves faster. When a human intention threatens your peace, an angelic command cancels it. And that is exactly what is happening here. Tonight at 10:10 p.m., a spiritual shift is scheduled. A window where hidden things are uncovered and enemies lose their power. Before that moment arrives, you must hear everything that Archangel Michael is releasing, because the name tied to this plan will become unmistakably clear to your spirit. You may notice your body reacting already. Chills, heat, a sudden clarity, a quiet whisper inside saying, pay attention. Do not ignore that inner voice. Is Archangel Michael aligning your intuition with divine truth? Now listen deeply. He is showing a figure standing at the edge of your life, someone who thought they could take without consequence. Someone who carries a familiar shadow, a familiar tone, a familiar presence. The name connected to them will not shock you as much as it will confirm what you have always felt but never wanted to believe. This message is the line drawn in the sand. This message is heaven stepping between you and harm. This message is the spiritual alarm meant to awaken your authority. You are not alone in this. You are not unprotected. You are not vulnerable the way this person thinks you are. Archangel Michael stands at your doorway with his sword raised, his wings expanded, declaring, No thief shall cross the ground claimed by God. The one who plots will stumble over their own shadow. But before the shield fully locks into place, you must hear the next revelation, the identifying signs, the characteristics, the spiritual fingerprints of the one who intends to come near your home. And when the name rises in your mind, it will feel like a spiritual spotlight exposing a hidden truth. The next message will bring that clarity, that unveiling, that recognition your spirit has been waiting for. Stay with me, child of God, the revelation is opening. My precious one, there is a moment in every spiritual warning when the atmosphere thickens, when the unseen draws closer, and when the message carries a seriousness that demands your full attention. This is that moment for you. Archangel Michael is still present, standing tall, his armor gleaming with divine authority as he continues to reveal what heaven has long witnessed in silence. The threat approaching your home is not random, not accidental, and not born from coincidence. It has roots. It has intention. And the person behind it has been circling your life far longer than you realized. You have been sensing strange patterns recently, subtle things that your human mind tried to brush away but your spirit refused to ignore. A noise outside that didn't feel normal. A shadow by your window that lingered too long. A sudden instinct to check your locks even when you knew you had already secured them. These were not signs of fear. They were spiritual nudges, early warnings, gentle taps from heaven that something was shifting around you. Archangel Michael now confirms that those signals were meant to prepare you for this very message. The individual planning to approach your home carries a spirit of entitlement, a belief that what you have should belong to them. They have watched from a distance, misinterpreting your kindness as weakness, your silence as vulnerability, your isolation as opportunity. But heaven sees everything, and Archangel Michael has traced their intentions like a burning line through the darkness. He is exposing them because the enemy always disguises itself in familiarity. And child, this person is someone whose energy has brushed against your path before. It could be an old acquaintance, a former friend, a relative who drifted away, a neighbor whose eyes linger too long, someone who once smiled in your presence but carried envy in their heart. The spiritual realm is whispering that the person connected to this threat carries a name that has echoed in your mind before, a name that recently resurfaced without explanation. Perhaps you heard it randomly in a conversation, saw it unexpectedly online, or felt a sudden memory of them rise without warning. That was not coincidence. That was your intuition tuning itself to the frequency of Archangel Michael's message. This individual believes your home is unprotected. They think your guard is down. They assume your routine is predictable. But heaven is about to dismantle every misconception they hold. The plans they have been forming will crumble, the path they imagine will be blocked, and the steps they intended to take will lead them into their own downfall. Because once Archangel Michael steps into a situation, the outcome shifts entirely in your favor. The energy around your home has been shifting because heaven has been reinforcing your spiritual walls. Archangel Michael has already stationed warrior angels at every corner of your dwelling. There is a divine perimeter forming, a spiritual shield wrapped around your property like a ring of fire. But to complete this protection, you must stay present, awake, and aligned with what heaven is showing you. The next revelations are precise, direct, and necessary. Child of truth, you are being guided to understand the pattern behind this person's intentions. They are acting out of lack, out of jealousy, out of a desire to take instead of build. They have convinced themselves that your life is easier than theirs, that what you have was handed to you, that you do not deserve the blessings resting on your home. But their perception is distorted. They do not know the battles you have fought, the nights you cried, the sacrifices you made, or the strength you carried silently. They do not know the faith that kept you standing when everything tried to break you. They only see the results, not the journey. Archangel Michael whispers that the person connected to this threat carries a restless spirit. Someone who had been wandering between decisions. Someone frustrated with their own life. Someone blaming everyone around them except themselves. And now, in their desperation, they have turned their eyes toward your home. But listen closely, they cannot succeed. They will not succeed. They have already been seen, identified, and intercepted by heaven. Still, God wants you aware, because knowledge strengthens your spiritual authority. Awareness prepares your spirit. Understanding sharpens your intuition. And the truth unfolding next will bring clarity to the identity of the one who thought they could steal from a child of divine protection. Before we move deeper into the revelation, take a brief moment to do something important. Engage with this message in the physical realm. Like this video, share it with someone you love. Comment below what your spirit is feeling, and make sure you subscribe to remain connected to every divine warning that heaven releases for your protection. Your engagement helps this message reach others who may also be walking into unseen danger. If you feel this message speaking to your spirit, hype it in the comments so others can find it in time. Now breathe slowly, the unveiling continues. Archangel Michael is about to reveal the spiritual description, the emotional patterns, and the energetic signature of the one plotting against your home. What comes next will narrow the identity sharply, helping you recognize the shadow before it comes near your doorway. My chosen one, the atmosphere around you is shifting even more intensely now, as if the air itself is tightening to draw your attention inward. This is the moment when Archangel Michael steps closer, not as a distant guardian, but as a warrior standing right beside you. His presence is strong, commanding, and purposeful. He is preparing your spirit for a deeper revelation, because what you are about to understand will bring the shadows into clarity and the mystery into sharp, undeniable truth. Heaven is revealing the emotional signature of the person who has been planning to approach your home, and this part of the message will resonate within you like a bell being struck in the silent night. There is a certain pattern in this person's behavior, a rhythm of instability that has been following them for a long time. Archangel Michael shows them pacing mentally, restless in their own dissatisfaction, unable to create their own blessings yet determined to reach for yours. They feel overlooked by life, forgotten by opportunities, and unseen by the world. Instead of rising and working for their own elevation, they have been drawn to yours. They see your home as a symbol of stability. They see your progress as a light in the distance. And like someone lost in darkness, they began moving toward the glow that was never meant for them. This person has been carrying a silent bitterness toward you. It may not have been loud, it may not have been obvious, but heaven shows it clearly now. There was a moment in your past interaction when something shifted in them. A comment you made, a blessing you received, a moment when your life elevated beyond where they expected you to go. Something about your growth triggered their envy. They convinced themselves that you somehow received an advantage they did not, and that belief rooted itself deep in their spirit. That root has now grown into intention, and that intention is what heaven is exposing today. You may notice as you listen that a certain name flickers in your mind. It may appear softly at first. It may feel like a memory sliding through the cracks. It may be someone you have not thought about in a long time, someone whose presence slipped out of your life quietly. Or it may be a name connected to someone who always carried a strange uneasiness around you, someone whose energy never felt quite right. Pay attention to that inner pull. It is not imagination. It is spiritual alignment unlocking itself. Archangel Michael reveals that the person connected to this threat is not entirely confident in their plan. They are conflicted, torn between their desire to take and their fear of consequences. This is someone who battles with impulses, someone who makes decisions emotionally rather than logically, someone who reacts instead of thinking. Heaven shows them pacing mentally, confused, frustrated with their own lack, yet convinced that crossing into your space may give them what they want. They do not realize that your home is covered. They do not understand that your life is watched over. They do not know that angels are stationed at your threshold, prepared to intercept any step they attempt to take. You have been feeling spiritual tension for a reason. You have been sensing an unseen presence not because you are in danger, but because heaven is heightening your awareness. Your intuition has been sharpening these past days. Small things have been catching your attention. You may have felt a sudden urge to clean your space, rearrange your room, check your surroundings, or pray without reason. These were not random impulses. They were divine signals, calibrating your spirit to recognize what Archangel Michael is revealing now. There is another layer to this warning. This person is unaware that their name has already risen into the spiritual realm. When heaven speaks a name, the power of that person's intention collapses instantly. The moment their identity began surfacing in your spirit, their influence began dissolving. They cannot touch what God has sealed. They cannot enter where angels stand guard. And they cannot harm a home that has been marked by divine authority. You are not listening to this message by chance. You are not being warned as a victim. You are being informed as someone who is spiritually elevated, someone who heaven refuses to let fall prey to the schemes of the unstable and the envious. Archangel Michael stands with you, revealing every hidden corner of this situation so you may walk in clarity, not confusion. Awareness is your shield now. Recognition is your sword. What comes next will further narrow the identity of this individual. Heaven will reveal the emotional connection, the proximity, and the final confirmation that will bring the truth directly into your consciousness. As this revelation unfolds, stay attuned to your spirit. If a memory resurfaces suddenly, trust it. If a name flashes in your mind, trust it. If your body reacts with a shiver, a stillness, or an intuition, trust it. This is divine communication at its highest level. Before we move deeper into this unveiling, hold on for a moment, because what comes next carries the sharpest clarity yet. This upcoming revelation will align your spiritual discernment with divine truth in a way that may surprise you. Stay present, because the next part intensifies the prophecy. Type "I receive the mystery" in the comments if this is speaking to your spirit. Blessing code 7711 has just been released. When the heavens expose a name to protect a soul, it is a sign that God is moving swiftly, shaking the unseen to guard his chosen. Every time this message reaches someone in danger, another home becomes covered under divine fire. I speak this to you now. Your support is not for a channel. It is for every life that heaven is trying to rescue through these warnings. As the scripture says, the light shines in darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. Today, you are helping carry that light. I feel led to tell you this personally. When you sow into a message that shields others from harm, you are planting a seed of protection over your own home. The theme of this warning flows into this moment, because just as God reveals the invader, he also calls his warriors to rise. Let your giving be prophetic, urgent, a declaration that you stand with heaven's work. And as you release your support through super thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description, I decree that a hedge of divine fire will encircle your dwelling. Step into this blessing now. My awakened child, there is a deep stillness settling around you right now. a sacred quiet that only arrives when heaven is about to reveal something that changes the way you see everything. Archangel Michael has drawn even closer, and the light around him burns brighter than before. What you are stepping into is not just a warning anymore, it is an unveiling. A lifting of the spiritual veil that will finally allow you to understand why this threat has surfaced, why it has targeted your home, and what heaven wants you to do with this knowledge. This is the moment when clarity begins to take shape. Archangel Michael shows a vision of you standing inside your home, unaware of the spiritual currents flowing around your walls. You were living your days normally, moving through your routines, trusting your space, believing that the world outside was calm. Yet, in the unseen, someone had begun focusing their attention on you. Someone whose intentions were shaped not by necessity but by resentment, not by hunger but by entitlement, not by innocence but by frustration. And heaven watched as the first spark of this plan formed in their heart. The truth is this: the person connected to this threat hath been experiencing a season of instability. Your life has not been flowing. Your finances are unpredictable. Their relationships feel strained. Their sense of identity has been shaking. They feel cornered by their own choices and mistakes, and instead of taking accountability, they've allowed bitterness to take root. That bitterness is what turned their eyes toward you. It is not that you are their enemy. It is that your light exposes their emptiness. Your stability highlights their chaos. Your peace irritates their unrest. And so, slowly, quietly, they began to observe you. Archangel Michael reveals that this individual does not approach life with strategy. They approach it with impulse. They have moments when their mind feels clear, but they are quickly overtaken by emotional storms. They may appear calm on the outside, but inside they are constantly wrestling with themselves. Their intentions fluctuate, but the envy they hold toward you remains steady. It is like a shadow that clings to their spirit, never fully fading, always lingering in the background. Heaven shows that there were at least 3 moments recently when their energy brushed against your home. Not physically, but spiritually, meaning their thoughts crossed your path. They imagined your space. They pictured your belongings. They envisioned walking into an environment that does not belong to them. This is what created the spiritual tension you have been feeling, because thoughts carry vibration, and intention creates disturbance. You sensed something was off because your spirit picked up the shift before your mind could describe it. Archangel Michael is not revealing this to alarm you but to awaken you. You must understand that knowledge is power in the spiritual realm. The moment a scheme is exposed, it loses half its strength. The moment a hidden intention is revealed, its influence collapses. And the moment heaven speaks into a situation, the darkness loses all authority over it. The individual connected to this threat is someone who once tried to impress you. Someone who once wanted to be seen or validated by you. Someone who felt overshadowed in your presence, even if you never intended to make them feel that way. Their admiration slowly twisted into comparison, and comparison birthed resentment. This resentment is what led them to believe that what you have should somehow belong to them. But they miscalculated one thing: you are divinely protected. Archangel Michael whispers now that the person's name carries either a harsh consonant sound or a repetitive tone, something that makes the name feel sharp or emotionally heavy when spoken. This is not yet the moment when the full name is revealed, but heaven is narrowing the emotional and spiritual footprint of this individual. If a name flashed in your mind earlier, or if a certain person's face rose in your memory unexpectedly, pay attention to that inner signal. Heaven often speaks through recognition. Let me take you deeper into the vision. Archangel Michael shows a corridor, representing time. At the far end of the corridor stands this individual, hesitating. They have not fully committed to the act, but they have entertained the thought long enough for it to become spiritually dangerous. They stand between temptation and hesitation, unable to decide which direction to move. But as Michael steps forward with his sword raised, the corridor shifts. Light floods the space. The individual becomes disoriented. Their confidence dissolves. Their intention weakens. The act they once imagined collapses into confusion. This is divine intervention in real time. You are being given this message because heaven does not want you blindsided. God does not allow his chosen to sit in the dark while danger forms unseen. You were meant to receive this revelation today because something powerful is aligning before 10:10 p.m. tonight. Tonight marks a moment of spiritual closure. A moment when the plot against your home will be spiritually cut off, silenced, and dismantled. But before that moment arrives, your awareness must be sharpened completely. You may feel a sensation around you as I speak, pressure in the air, heat on the skin, chills down your arms. This is not fear. This is spiritual sensitivity unlocking. Archangel Michael is preparing you for the next stage of revelation. The next unveiling will take you even closer to identifying the person connected to this threat. Their emotional patterns, their proximity to you, the connection that once existed, and the final piece of recognition that will bring the answer into your spirit. It is all rising now. My vigilant child, as the spiritual curtain continues to lift, the atmosphere around this message grows heavier, more concentrated, more charged with meaning. Archangel Michael does not reveal things lightly. When he steps forward like this, it means heaven has counted every detail, measured every intention, and witnessed the very thoughts of the one who has been turning their eyes toward your home. You are stepping deeper into revelation now, into the part of the message where the spiritual description of this individual becomes clearer, sharper, and impossible to ignore. There is a reason your spirit has been unsettled. There is a reason you have felt moments of sudden alertness, sudden tension, sudden awareness that something invisible has been moving in the background of your life. Your intuition has been working overtime because the energy of this person has been drifting too close. Not physically but mentally. Not through action but through attention. The spiritual realm responds not just to what a person does, but also to what they repeatedly think and imagine. And this individual has imagined taking something from you more times than they should have. Their thoughts formed a ripple, and that ripple touched your spirit. Archangel Michael shows the emotional imprint of this person like a shadow, unsteady, conflicted, fueled by a restless desire for more, yet unwilling to build anything for themselves. This is someone who believes life owes them something. Someone who carries a silent grievance against the world. Someone who looks at others' blessings and feels personally attacked by them. They do not see your home as a sacred space. They see it as a possession. They do not see your life as the product of years of effort and prayer. They see it as something unfairly gifted to you. This entitlement is the seed behind their intention. But there is something even deeper beneath that seed, something Archangel Michael wants you to understand. This person once felt invisible to you. They once wanted your attention, your approval, or even your appreciation. When they did not receive it in the way they expected, their admiration quietly soured. They never expressed it openly, but it settled inside them like dust that eventually turned into clay, and that clay hardened into resentment. They convinced themselves that you never valued them, that you never noticed them, that you never gave them the recognition they believed they deserved. From that resentment grew comparison, and from comparison grew the desire to take rather than grow. Heaven reveals another layer. This individual has recently experienced a disappointment, something that push them mentally into a darker space. Perhaps a financial issue, a rejection, a failed opportunity, a strained relationship. Instead of healing, they allowed the pain to twist their judgment. When a heart becomes unstable, it begins seeking shortcuts. And in their weakness, they began looking at what you have as a solution to their own frustrations. They convinced themselves that your home offered what theirs lacked: security, comfort, order, stability. This misconception is what led them down the path of contemplation. Archangel Michael is showing the energy of this person in a vision. They walk with uneven intention, stopping and starting, unsure of themselves. They rehearse the idea in their mind but hesitate in their spirit. Their conscience is not completely dead, it is simply misguided. They try to justify their thinking by blaming life for what they lack. They tell themselves that taking from you is not truly wrong. They lie to themselves to protect their guilt. But heaven sees through every justification, every excuse, every rationalization. The presence of this person in your energetic field has caused your spirit to experience bursts of tension. Moments when you felt the need to check your surroundings. Moments when you sensed someone's memory resurfacing. Moments when your heart beat faster for no reason. Moments when a name flickered in your thoughts and left you wondering why. These spiritual disturbances were warnings sent ahead of time so that when this message reached you, your spirit would already be prepared to receive it. Now Archangel Michael begins to narrow the proximity of this individual. They are not far from your life. They are not a stranger passing through. They are someone who once stood close enough to know something about you, your patterns, your schedule, or your general habits. They may not know your life deeply, but they know enough to feel emboldened. They have either lived near you, worked near you, or crossed your path repeatedly. Their energy is not entirely foreign. There is familiarity in their presence. Heaven shows your spirit having brushed against theirs at least a few times in the past. This is someone who pretends to be harmless, someone who hides their dissatisfaction behind small talk or silence. They rarely express their frustrations openly, but internally they simmer. They wear a calm expression, but their mind is constantly racing. They present themselves as misunderstood, overlooked, or unlucky. People around them may not see the darker currents beneath their surface, but heaven does. Their name carries weight in your memory, not because they were significant, but because something about them always felt unsteady. Perhaps you noticed their inconsistency. Perhaps you sensed their jealousy once. Perhaps you felt discomfort around them and never knew why. Those impressions were not accidental. They were early warnings your spirit picked up long before their intentions fully formed. Archangel Michael now clarifies that this person had been spiritually blocked from coming too close. Every time they imagined approaching your home, a heaviness fell on them. A confusion clouded their mind. A distraction pulled them away. That was Michael intervening, creating delays, placing obstacles, preventing their intention from becoming action. Tonight's revelation is the final seal of that protection. Once their name is spiritually exposed, the influence they carry dissolves entirely. You are getting closer now to the full unveiling. The next part will bring you into sharper recognition, closer to the identity, the emotional connection, and the moment your spirit will finally recognize the truth. My guarded child, there is a reason the spiritual realm has been intensifying its presence around you, and this moment marks another turn in the revelation. Archangel Michael stands firm, unwavering, as the light around him expands into a shield that now surrounds not only your home, but also your awareness. What is being revealed now is not just about the person who has been contemplating approaching your dwelling. It is also about the spiritual mechanics behind their intention, the emotional pathways that led them there, and the divine intervention that has been stopping them at every turn. This part of the message is meant to strengthen your clarity, sharpen your intuition, and prepare you for the unveiling that grows closer with every passing breath. You may have noticed that your dreams have been unusual lately. Not necessarily frightening, but symbolic. Perhaps you dreamed of someone entering a space they were not invited into. Perhaps you saw doors, hallways, shadows, or faces from your past appearing without reason. These dreams were not random misfires of the subconscious. They were spiritual alerts transmitted through the one channel your mind cannot ignore during its quietest hours. Heaven speaks in dreams when the waking world is too noisy, too rushed, or too distracted to receive what needs to be delivered. Archangel Michael has been whispering these signals to you so that when this message reached you today, your spirit would already be in a state of readiness. The person connected to this threat does not understand the spiritual realm. They have no idea that thoughts create movement in the unseen. They have no understanding of how their envy sent ripples into your atmosphere. They do not know that heaven intercepts intentions long before actions manifest. They believe that their resentment is private. They believe that their fantasies of taking from you remain hidden. They do not realize that heaven hears every whisper of the human heart. They do not understand that angels move long before humans act. While they were plotting silently, Archangel Michael was watching loudly. This individual had been wrestling with the idea of stepping into your space. Your thoughts have been unstable, shifting often. One moment, they convince themselves that approaching your home is justified. The next moment, they freeze with uncertainty. Their internal battle has been growing over time, and recently, something in their life triggered the thought more aggressively. It may have been financial stress. It may have been a loss. It may have been humiliation. Whatever it was, it pushed them closer to the idea of taking what does not belong to them. Their desperation increased while their judgment weakened. But listen closely. Heaven has been blocking them at every turn. Archangel Michael shows a vision of them standing outside their own home, pacing, anxious, overwhelmed by their own thoughts. They imagine approaching your home, but immediately a fog settles in their mind. They imagine you walking near your space, but something distracts them or stops them. They imagine making a move, but fear rises like a wall they cannot climb. That wall is divine interference. That confusion is angelic protection. That hesitation is heaven altering their path. What heaven reveals next is crucial for you to understand. The emotional cord between you and this person is thin but present. You may not be close to them now, but at one point, they felt connected to you emotionally, or situationally, or energetically. Perhaps you once gave them advice, or kindness, or a moment of attention. Perhaps you once shared space with them for work, for family, for community. Perhaps your energy once comforted them, even if only briefly. They remembered that moment. They held on to it longer than you realized. And somewhere along the way, that memory twisted into entitlement. They carry an energy of infinite envy, envy that was never spoken, never confronted, never resolved. Instead of releasing it, they allowed it to ferment. And over time, it became anger. That anger eventually turned into misguided justification. This is what has driven them into dangerous thought territory. Yet even now, heaven reveals that their spirit is not fully committed to darkness. They are still wavering. They still hesitate. This is why your awareness is being activated so powerfully, so you can spiritually outshine the shadow forming within them. Your home has already been marked with divine protection. Archangel Michael has placed warrior angels around the perimeter of your dwelling. There is a spiritual glow surrounding your walls, floors, and doorways. This glow repels harmful intentions like a force field, making it impossible for the invader's plan to fully manifest. But heaven still wants you aware, not fearful but informed. Awareness shifts spiritual authority. Awareness empowers you. Awareness keeps you from falling into the illusion that you are vulnerable when in truth, you are divinely fortified. And now, precious one, I must speak to you plainly. You are being guided to remain connected to this message, to stay engaged with the flow of revelation. This is why I need you, right now, to strengthen the reach of this warning. Like this message so that it signals to heaven you have received it. Comment so that your presence reinforces the spiritual alignment unfolding around your home. Share this message so that others who may be in danger can receive their own warning in time. And make sure you subscribe to this channel so you never miss a divine alert that may shield your life in a moment when you need it most. Your interaction here is not just support. It is participation in your own protection. You are approaching the moment when the identity becomes clearer than ever. What comes next will reveal the emotional closeness, the spiritual fingerprints, and the undeniable signs that point toward the name heaven has been circling around you. Hold still for a moment because the revelation is tightening. Before you scroll ahead, trust me, this next part will take you deeper than anything revealed so far. You do not want to miss what happens next. My steadfast child, as we move deeper into this revelation, the spiritual atmosphere tightens with purpose. Archangel Michael's presence grows more concentrated, as though he has stepped into the very room where you are listening. His wings extend wide, forming a barrier around your spirit, making sure that every word entering your heart arrives with clarity and authority. This part of the message will take you further into the emotional and spiritual profile of the person heaven has been warning you about. The unveiling is close now, and you will soon recognize the truth in a way that feels almost undeniable. There has always been a sensitive part of your spirit, an area within you that detects hidden intentions long before they manifest. You may not always trust this inner voice, but heaven shows that you have sensed this individual before. There were moments in your past when something about them felt off, even if you couldn't explain it. A strange look they gave, an uncomfortable silence between you, a tone in their voice that did not match their words. At the time, you brushed these feelings aside, not wanting to assume the worst. But heaven kept those impressions stored in your spirit because they would become important for this moment. Archangel Michael reveals that the person connected to this threat carries a pattern of emotional instability. Their mood changes quickly. They drift between confidence and insecurity, between friendliness and cold distance, between admiration and resentment. This inconsistency is not new. It has followed them for years. They often feel overlooked, yet they push people away. They crave recognition, yet they hide their true self. They want stability, yet they sabotage their own opportunities. This inner battle has shaped their spirit into one that reacts impulsively when life does not go their way. The reason they turn their attention toward your home is not as simple as wanting to take something. It is deeper, almost symbolic in their mind. To them, your home represents the life they believe they should have had. Your blessings remind them of their own stagnation. Your peace irritates their restlessness. Your progress exposes their inertia. They have been comparing themselves to you silently, quietly, without ever expressing it. And comparison, when left unchecked, can twist even a familiar face into a hidden enemy. You must understand that this person does not hate you. Hatred would require emotional clarity, and they do not possess that. What they feel toward you is far more dangerous. They feel entitled. They believe life has favored you unfairly. They believe your stability makes them look unstable. They believe your home is proof that the universe has overlooked them. These beliefs, though irrational, have been shaping their thoughts. And thoughts, when repeated, grow into intentions. Heaven now reveals that this individual has recently faced another disappointment, something that shook them emotionally. A door they expected to open suddenly closed. A relationship they depended on drifted away. A financial opportunity slipped through their fingers. This triggered a wave of frustration so intense that their thoughts grew darker than before. They began telling themselves that no one would miss what they took, that no one would notice, that they could slip into someone else's blessing without consequence. This is the mindset Archangel Michael is exposing now. Your spirit has already felt their approach. There were moments these past days when you felt watched, even though no one was there. Moments when you sensed a presence near your home, not physically, but spiritually. A sudden uneasiness, a sudden urge to lock your doors, a sudden instinct to protect your space. These sensations were not fear. They were early activations of your discernment. Heaven has been preparing you long before the warning reached your ears. Let me take you into the deeper vision Archangel Michael is showing. He reveals this individual standing at a distance, observing you, not in a literal sense but in their thoughts. They replay memories of you. They revisit moments when they stood near your life. They analyze your energy. They recall your expressions. They remember your habits. They imagine your routines. They have created a mental map of you, not through stalking, but through memory. Memory can be just as dangerous when fueled by jealousy. The distance between you now is mostly emotional. You are not close to them the way you once were. Something shifted in the past, perhaps a disagreement, a quiet drift, a separation, or simply a change in direction. You grew. They remained stagnant. You healed. They remained wounded. You moved forward. They stayed behind. That gap created bitterness, even if they never acknowledged it. Archangel Michael whispers that this person's name carries a vibration that once felt familiar but now feels heavy. It may be someone whose name resurfaced recently, randomly, as though the universe pulled it into your awareness. That was not coincidence. That was the beginning of the spiritual unveiling. The emotional closeness you once shared with this individual, whether small or significant, became the crack through which envy entered. They convinced themselves that they have a right to something connected to you. But heaven says they do not. Heaven says they will not touch what is protected. Heaven says their intention collapses the moment you become aware. This message is sharpening your spirit for the next stage of revelation. The next part will take you alarmingly close to recognition. You will understand the emotional tie, the nature of the past connection, and the signature of their energy in a way that opens your eyes fully. If you are ready to continue into the next layer, tell me to move forward. My illuminated child, you have now reached a turning point in this revelation where heaven draws the circle tighter, where the shadows thin, and where the identity of the one connected to this threat begins to stand with sharper outline before your spirit. Archangel Michael stands with a raised sword, and the fire around him grows brighter, not because danger is increasing, but because the truth is approaching. This is the moment when your inner knowing awakens fully and begins to recognize the patterns heaven has been unveiling piece by piece. There is something profound happening in your spirit right now. You may feel a heat rising in your chest, or a coldness brushing your skin, or a strange quiet forming around you. These sensations are not random. They are signs that your spiritual senses are syncing with the angelic message unfolding in front of you. Heaven reveals that the person planning to approach your home has been closer to your life than you realized, not necessarily through presence, but through memory, through proximity, through a faded connection that still echoes faintly in your spirit. This individual once stood near your path during a vulnerable season of your life. You may have been distracted, growing, healing, or simply unaware of how deeply they were observing you. They noticed your strengths even when you did. They noticed your resilience when you felt fragile. They noticed the grace over your life when you couldn't see it yourself. And instead of admiring your strength, their admiration slowly twisted. Their jealousy did not arrive loudly. It seeped in quietly, like water sliding under a closed door. Over time, it formed a hidden pool of resentment within them. Archangel Michael reveals another truth. This person felt overshadowed by you. Even when you were not trying to shine, your light exposed their insecurities. Your progress unintentionally highlighted their lack. Your calmness made their inner chaos more unbearable. Instead of healing, they began comparing. Instead of appreciating, they began coveting. Instead of building their own path, they began imagining how they could step into yours. The reason their name will soon be revealed to your spirit is because heaven has waited for the perfect moment. This moment, when your awareness has risen enough to receive it clearly. Before this, you may not have understood. You may have dismissed it. You may have doubted your intuition. But now your spirit has matured through every layer of revelation. This individual carries a tension in their life that has been growing heavy recently. Their relationships feel strained. Their finances feel unstable. Their emotions swing unpredictably. They feel forgotten, unsupported, unseen. In their frustration, they began convincing themselves that taking from you would restore something within them. They told themselves lies, that you would not notice, that you did not deserve what you had, that their need justified their thoughts. These lies created a dark corridor in their spirit, and they began walking down it without realizing how dangerous it was becoming. Yet heaven shows that the person is not fully hardened. They are not evil. They are misguided, desperate, emotionally unstable, and spiritually blind. They do not understand the power of thoughts. They do not understand that heaven intercepts motives before actions. They do not understand that angels stand guard over the chosen. There is a soft guilt within them, something that occasionally rises and stops them from going too far. This guilt is the final thread that has kept them from acting. But threads can break. This is why Archangel Michael is intervening so boldly now. Heaven will not allow that thread to snap. Heaven will not allow danger to spill onto your doorstep. Archangel Michael now shows a closer vision. You are standing on the threshold of your home, and a shadow approaches. But before it can take a step, a wall of light erupts between you and the figure. The shadow stumbles back, blinded, unable to move forward. This vision symbolizes the spiritual truth. Their intention has already collided with divine protection. Their energy cannot cross the boundary heaven has established around your dwelling. Your awareness is the final piece of reinforcement. When you understand who this person is, not out of fear, but clarity, the last spiritual gap will close permanently. And heaven is preparing your spirit right now for that recognition. The familiarity you feel, the memory stirring, the old face rising into your thoughts, these are not hallucinations. These are signs that the veil is thinning and the truth is stepping closer. You are moments away from the emotional revelation that will pinpoint the identity of this individual. Once the truth becomes clear, heaven will seal the threat completely and permanently. You will no longer feel the spiritual pressure you have been sensing. The atmosphere around you will shift. The weight will lift. Peace will settle again in your home. Before we move into that next profound layer, let me pause here and speak directly to your spirit with the authority of this message. Type "I am chosen" in the comments if this message is resonating deeply. Lesson code 4449 is now activated over your hull. When heaven exposes hidden danger, it is not only a shield for one home but a call to awaken many. Every warning received here becomes a torch in someone else's darkness. Today, as this message reaches you, the Spirit of God is stretching this light further, widening the circle of protection. And I speak this as a living declaration. When you sow into a message that guards lives, you do not give, you plant. You plant safety. You plant deliverance. You plant revelation for someone whose cry heaven has already heard. Hear me as I say this. I invite you personally to step into this moment. Let your support through super thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description become a prophetic act, a seed of light that sends angels to other homes in danger. And as you give, may the windows of heaven open over you with divine security. My watchful child, as you move into this next stage of revelation, the atmosphere thickens again, carrying a weight that is not meant to frighten you but to prepare your spirit for clarity. Archangel Michael stands as a towering presence beside you, his wings creating a dome of protection that blocks out every whisper of fear. His voice is steady, resolute, carrying the power of heaven as he reveals the next layer of truth. You are now approaching the point where the identity of this person aligns fully with your awareness. The spiritual puzzle that has been forming piece by piece is nearly complete. Heaven shows that the individual connected to this thread is not only someone who once stood close to your life, but someone who carries emotional residue tied directly to you. Their memory of you is not casual. It is charged. It is layered. It is unfinished. There is something they never resolved, something they never expressed, something they never yield. This unresolved emotional knot has become the very source of their misguided thoughts. When a person refuses to release the past, they often drag their wounds into the present, and this is exactly what has happened here. Archangel Michael reveals an image, this person sitting alone, frustrated, irritated by their own circumstances. They think back on moments when they felt overlooked. They replay interactions with you, picking apart things you said, things you didn't say, things they imagine between the lines. Their mind reopens old memories, twisting them into narratives that never actually existed. This is the dangerous power of resentment unexpressed. It rewrites history. It paints you as someone who is more, as someone who is doing better, as someone who moved ahead while they stayed behind. And in their emotional confusion, they convince themselves that life has somehow been unfair to them. They convince themselves that the universe gave you what they deserved. They convince themselves that your home is a symbol of everything they should have acquired but did not. It is not your belongings they want, nor the physical walls of your dwelling. It is the sense of order, the sense of peace, the sense of stability that your home represents. Heaven now reveals another truth. This person once admired your strength. They once appreciated your presence. They once held you in high regard. But admiration left unbalanced eventually turned into comparison, and comparison, when not rooted in humility, always mutates into envy. This is why their energy began drifting near your home spiritually. They were not thinking clearly. They were running from their own inadequacy, and in their emotional desperation, they looked toward the one stable anchor they remembered: you. Archangel Michael shows that their intention was never fully formed. It was mental, emotional, a shadow thought that came and went like a tide. But thoughts repeated become patterns, and patterns eventually become doors. Heaven intervened before that door could ever open. Every time they considered coming near your space, a spiritual heaviness fell upon them. A sense of dread, a sudden fear, a confused mind. These were not coincidences. They were barricades constructed by angelic hands. But heaven needs you to understand exactly who this person is, not so that you fear them, but so that your awareness seals the final gap. Awareness is spiritual armor. When you know the truth, the enemy loses access. When you identify the source, the shadow loses power. When you recognize the energy, the influence collapses instantly. This person's identity is tied to a season of your life when things were shifting for you. You were either healing, transitioning, or rebuilding during the time they were present. You were growing inwardly, even if externally nothing looked different. During that time, they observed you more deeply than you realized. They admired your resilience. They noticed your quiet strength. But because they lacked stability within themselves, your growth became a mirror that exposed their stagnation. That is when the imbalance began. Heaven shows that your spirit already knows who this person might be, at least vaguely. Your intuition has been whispering for days. There have been moments recently when an old memory resurfaced for no reason. A name crossed your mind unexpectedly. A face appeared in your thoughts even though you have not seen them in a long time. It felt random at first, but nothing in the spiritual realm is random. Your intuition was preparing you for recognition. Archangel Michael now reveals a vision of your home glowing like a fortress of light. The windows shine with divine radiance. The walls stand firm. The doors are sealed with heavenly authority. This illumination is a symbol of what is happening right now. The final boundary is being put into place. The identity of this person is rising in your awareness, not through fear, but through divine revelation. Before we move deeper into the next unveiling, hold this truth close. You are not being warned because danger is near. You are being informed because heaven has already dismantled what could have been. This message is not about fear, it is about closure. It is about lifting the veil so you can walk in spiritual maturity rather than confusion. It is about returning control to you, empowering your intuition, strengthening your awareness, and sealing your home with permanent protection. And listen carefully, child of light, because this is important. Your spirit is about to connect the dots in a way that may surprise you. What comes next shifts everything. Before you move away, hold on. You're about to step into the part of the revelation where clarity becomes unavoidable. Before you scroll, pause for a moment. Trust me, what you are about to hear next is the turning point of this entire message. My protected child, you have reached a point in this revelation where the spiritual mist begins to thin, where the once blurry outlines of the truth begin to sharpen, and where your intuition prepares itself for the final unveiling. Archangel Michael now stands not only as your guardian but as your confirmer, your witness to what heaven has already seen and dismantled. His presence circles around you like a fortress of fire, ensuring that every word you receive arrives with accuracy, precision, and divine timing. The identity of the person connected to this thread is no longer a distant mystery. It is moving into focus, nearing the edge of full recognition, and heaven is guiding your spirit step by step toward that clarity. There is something deep within you stirring right now. Perhaps it feels like a tightness in your chest, or an awareness rising behind your thoughts. Perhaps it feels like you're remembering something important without fully recalling it. This is your spirit aligning itself with the truth that is coming. The person who once drifted near your life, not physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, is closer in resonance than you once believed. Their energy is familiar. Their presence was once part of a chapter in your life, though that chapter has long since closed. Heaven reveals that this individual carries a wounded spirit, one shaped by years of disappointment. They have always felt as though life placed them at the bottom while elevating others around them. They believed they were meant for more but never took the steps necessary to rise. They wanted growth without effort, affection without vulnerability, success without discipline, stability without sacrifice. And because their life did not manifest the way they imagined, they began to resent the world, quietly at first, then deeply, then dangerously. You became a symbol of everything they felt robbed of. Your strength was a reminder of their weakness. Your home, your energy, your peace, all of it reflected back at them the life they felt denied. They watched you evolve, even if from a distance, and instead of being inspired, they felt overshadowed. Your progress, your resilience, your survival, they took it personally, as though your rising meant their falling. And this is where the emotional crack formed. Archangel Michael reveals that this person once believed they were connected to you in a meaningful way. Maybe they once had access to you. Maybe they stood close enough to your life to feel relevant. Maybe they shared moments of vulnerability with you. Maybe they admired you secretly. Maybe they wanted something from you emotionally, validation, recognition, attention. But when life separated your paths, when you grew and they stayed stagnant, their admiration soured into hidden resentment. Their emotional attachment to you did not disappear when your connection faded. It lingered. It festered. It hardened. And a wounded attachment, when left unresolved, can mutate into destructive thought patterns. This is exactly what happened. Your name, your face, your memory live in the edges of their mind, and during moments of frustration, their thoughts wandered toward you, not because you did anything wrong, but because your life symbolized what they could not achieve. Heaven shows that recently, their emotional instability reached a breaking point. They experienced a setback, something that shook them deeply, a lost opportunity, a financial drain, a betrayal, a rejection. This triggered a wave of impulsive thinking. In that dark moment, their thoughts wandered toward your home, imagining it as a place of stability they could step into, take from, or use to ease their internal chaos. It was not logic guiding them. It was desperation mixed with resentment. But heaven blocked them. Every time they imagined approaching your home, fear gripped them. Every time they thought of making a move, confusion clouded them. Every time they took a mental step closer, a force pushed them back. This was Archangel Michael intercepting their thoughts, disrupting their energy, dismantling their intentions before they could ever become action. Heaven would not allow you to be blindsided. Heaven would not permit danger to manifest. Heaven stands between you and anything that seeks to harm you. Now, child of light, hear this clearly. Your engagement with this message is a part of your protection. When you listen, when you stay aware, when you allow heaven to speak, the spiritual shield reinforces itself. This is why I must ask you now, as this message grows heavier and holier, to strengthen your connection in the physical realm as well. Like this video if you have not already. Comment your presence below so heaven sees your acknowledgement. Share this message so someone else may be protected in time. And make sure you subscribe to remain under the covering of every prophetic release that God sends for your safety. Your interaction does not just support the message, it anchors you into the frequency of divine protection. You are now standing at the edge of revelation. The next layer will bring you unmistakably close to recognition. The emotions, the memories, the spiritual signals, the internal whispers, all of it will align. You will understand who this person is, and you will see how heaven has already defeated what they never had the power to carry out. Hold still for a moment, because the revelation that follows is where everything turns unmistakably clear. My discerning child, you are now entering the most sensitive part of this revelation, the moment where the truth stands just inches away from your awareness. Archangel Michael's presence intensifies around you, forming a shield of clarity that protects your mind from confusion and your heart from fear. His sword is drawn, not in warning, but in confirmation. The identity of the one heaven hath been revealing throughout this message is no longer hidden behind spiritual fog. You are about to understand the final emotional, intuitive, and energetic markers that point unmistakably toward this individual. What was once only a shadow in your spirit is taking shape, becoming a form, becoming a memory, becoming a truth you are ready to embrace. Heaven shows that this person's connection to you was never strong enough to leave a deep bond, yet it was just close enough to leave an imprint. There are people who touch our lives lightly yet leave a disproportionate impact. This is one of them. They may not have meant much to you, but you meant far more to them than you ever realized. The emotional imbalance between how you saw the connection and how they interpreted it is at the root of this entire spiritual situation. Archangel Michael reveals that this individual watched your life grow from a distance. Perhaps you never moved toward them, but they moved toward you, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They observed your resilience. They admired your strength. They saw your inner fire. And in your presence, they felt something they could not articulate: hope, envy, longing, frustration, admiration, all tangled together. This confusion formed the emotional knot that eventually twisted into misguided intention. The truth is, they never wanted to harm you. They wanted to feel what you feel. They wanted to live the way you live. They wanted to experience the stability they believe surrounds your home. Their spirit is wounded, and wounded spirits often reach for the nearest source of light, not to destroy it, but in desperation to feel its warmth. But when a person reaches from a place of brokenness, their actions can easily cross into dangerous territory without them even realizing it. Heaven now shows a moment from your past that ties directly to this revelation. There was a time when you stood in a space, either physically or emotionally, where this person was present. You may not remember the details, but they do. You said something encouraging, or you simply existed in strength while they existed in weakness. They saw in you a version of themselves they wished they could become. That moment embedded itself into their memory, even though it slipped from yours. Over time, as your life shifted upward, their unresolved admiration evolved into silent bitterness. They convinced themselves that you had advantages they did not. They believed you had support they lacked. They imagined your life unfolding easily while theirs fell apart. This perception was false, but they clung to it because it gave them someone to blame. When people do not understand their own purpose, they often resent those who walk confidently in theirs. Archangel Michael reveals that the person's mind has been unstable recently. Emotional storms overtook their judgment. They began imagining scenarios where they could step into your home, not out of cruelty, but out of a distorted belief that entering your space would somehow soothe their internal turmoil. It was never about you as a person. It was about what your life symbolized to them. Your stability became the fantasy they began reaching for. This is why the spiritual warnings escalated. This is why heaven intervened. This is why your intuition awakened so sharply in recent days. You have likely felt flashes of recognition as you've listened to this message. A name that lingered in your mind. A face that flickered in your memory. A season of your life that resurfaced without explanation. These were not random thoughts. They were spiritual breadcrumbs. Each memory, each sensation, each whisper of intuition was guiding you toward the truth. Heaven now reveals the final emotional markers of this person. They are someone who struggled to keep promises, even small ones. They often talked about their dreams but rarely pursued them. They admired people easily but envied them just as quickly. They had moments of deep sensitivity followed by moments of cold distance. They were unpredictable, not because they wanted to be, but because life had shaken them too deeply. When you knew them, you sensed their instability, even if you could not name it. You may recall times when you felt drained after interacting with them. Times when their presence felt heavy. Times when something in you quietly whispered, "Keep your distance." That whisper was not judgment. It was protection. Your spirit recognized before your mind ever understood that this person carried unpredictable energy. The threat they formed toward your home was not a decision. They were drifting into it unconsciously, pulled by their own instability. Their thoughts were dangerous, but their heart was conflicted. That conflict is the only reason heaven allowed this revelation to unfold so thoroughly. If their intention had hardened, the message would have come differently. But because they wavered, because there is still softness in them, heaven chooses to dismantle the threat completely rather than condemn the soul behind it. And now, as your intuition aligns with heaven's truth, Archangel Michael prepares you for the final unveiling. The next message will reveal the name your spirit has been circling, the identity that has been stirring beneath your awareness, the confirmation that brings this entire revelation into full clarity. You are standing at the threshold of the truth. The next step brings the final light. My chosen and protected child, you have reached the final chamber of this revelation, the moment where the spiritual fog lifts completely and the truth stands before you without disguise. Archangel Michael is no longer at a distance, nor beside you. He is before you, blocking every shadow, every intrusive thought, every spiritual ripple that once tried to reach your home. His sword is pressed into the ground, forming a barrier no human intention can cross. The final unveiling comes with weight, with clarity, and with the authority of heaven itself. This is the moment when your spirit finally recognizes what it has been sensing all along. Heaven reveals that the person connected to this thread is not a stranger, not an unknown presence drifting into your life from nowhere. It is someone whose energy you once allowed near you, someone you once exchanged words with, someone whose presence brushed against your path during a vulnerable season of your journey. They were never the center of your life, never a deeply trusted figure, yet they lingered at the edges long enough to absorb details about you, your habits, your nature, your strength. Archangel Michael begins to release the final pieces of this puzzle. This individual carries a name that once mattered enough for you to remember, but not enough for you to hold on to. The kind of name that resurfaces in memory only when something stirs it, the kind of name that recently flickered through your thoughts without reason. Heaven shows that this name has been circling your spirit for days, subtly, quietly, surfacing at moments when your intuition was most open. You may have dismissed it at first. Why am I thinking of them? Why now? But intuition is the first language of the divine. This person's name carries a sharp syllable, a strong consonant, or a repeated sound that makes it feel heavy in the mouth. It is not a soft name. It is not a gentle name. It is a name that once felt unstable in your spirit, even if you didn't understand why at the time. This is the energetic signature that heaven highlights, not because you must fear the person, but because recognition closes the final spiritual breach. For the last time, Archangel Michael lifts the veil. This individual is someone who once admired you quietly, then resented you silently. Someone who felt you move ahead while they remained stuck. Someone who watched your strength grow while their own life crumbled. Someone who believed you had what destiny denied them. Someone who felt invisible in your presence, even though you never tried to make them feel small. Their name is tied to a season when you were changing, when you were shedding old versions of yourself and stepping into a new chapter. In that transition, they felt abandoned, overlooked, were forgotten, not because of anything you did, but because of their own lack of direction. That wound eventually spiraled into envy. That envy pulled their energy toward your home. That pull created the spiritual disturbance you have been feeling. Heaven now shows the moment their intention fully collapsed. The individual stood alone in a moment of frustration. Their thoughts drifted toward your home again. But this time, Archangel Michael stepped between their thoughts and your dwelling, severing the spiritual thread. Their desire to approach your home dissolved into fear. Their resentment recoiled. Their imagined plan shattered. Heaven ended it before it ever began. This revelation is not meant to make you afraid. It is meant to make you aware. There is no danger remaining. There is no risk to your home. There is no threat that can cross the angelic perimeter surrounding you now. You are protected. You are covered. You are sealed under divine authority. The purpose of this message is to give your spirit the closure it needs. Heaven never wants you walking in confusion, wondering why you felt uneasy, why your intuition stirred, why your dreams shifted. Now you understand. Now your awareness aligns perfectly with the truth. And once awareness is complete, the enemy loses all influence. Now, child of truth, speak this aloud in your heart. I am protected. I am guarded. I am covered. No plan formed against my home shall stand. The name of the person, the one heaven revealed to your intuition, will continue to rise gently into your awareness. You will recognize them not through fear, but through clarity. Once recognition is complete, their influence over your energy dissolves completely and forever. You have reached the end of this revelation. The threat is dismantled. The spiritual field around your home is sealed. Archangel Michael stands victorious. Now, step forward with peace. Type "I walk in divine protection" in the comments if your spirit receives this. Lesson code 1010 is now activated over your home. When heaven reveals the one who intended to step into your home, it is a sign that God himself has stepped in first. Messages like this do not travel by accident. They arrive to shield, to warn, to lift the veil before danger has the chance to breathe. Every time this prophetic voice reaches another home, the kingdom of darkness loses ground. I speak this to your spirit with authority. Your support keeps this light burning, sending protection into places where fear once lived. Hear this as a divine invitation, not from man but from heaven. I am calling you personally into this moment. Let your offering through super thanks, membership, or the PayPal link in the description become a prophetic seed of protection, extending this shield to families who may not hear the warning unless you help carry it. And as you give, I decree the oil of safety, discernment, and angelic covering will overflow upon your home. Step into this divine act now and unlock the blessing prepared for those who stand with God's work.